Here we go. Yeah, talk about keeping it going. Here we go. Public health and safety meeting called to order. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, 2 items on the agenda. The first is fireworks permit for Heart and Soul on June 14th, and I believe it's at the middle school. Again, any differences?
No, it's a
Anything,
pretty
Linda?
standard request here, I believe. I don't know if anybody's here to speak to it.
I think we've scheduled it the last 2 years and it's not happened for one reason or another the last 2 years. Is that right?
Yes. Now this one, and I think there was one other event. She had requested did she have to pay the fee again? The fireworks fee. They didn't get to use them either time last year, but they paid them. If they paid them last year, are you guys okay with them waiving that fee?
I am.
Or,
I move approval of the fireworks and that we waive the fee for the Heart and Soul.
Second. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. What, Dan?
No.
Next item on the agenda is fireworks permit request for the 4th of July by the Exchange Club, and the map indicates they're going to fire them from the same spot, I think. Correct?
right, as far as I know.
Okay. Okay, anybody here to speak to that? Exchange Club or fire, public safety? Lyndon again?
As far as I know, it's going to be the same as other years. We'll establish
Okay.
a security or a perimeter.
The boundaries and the
boundaries, keep
roads
people out.
closed?
We'll have the boat out if it goes off. Same thing as every other year.
Okay. Any other discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the fireworks on the 4th of July.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carried. Move to adjourn. Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Sidewalk Committee.
This time we'll call the sidewalk committee to order. Can I have a, oh, yeah. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. We first wanted to do a review of the 2019 sidewalk plan, being that we will be having our sidewalk hearing tonight. So I just wanted to kind of go over all the other areas. So I'll have Stephanie pull up the first one, Spruce and Cabela Drive layout. So this is kind of the layout that we had talked about before. And so the existing bike trail is actually being installed as we speak, going down Highway 37 Burr Street on the west side. And then we are planning on installing a bike trail on the north side of Spruce Street. Okay. So on the north side of Spruce Street, we'll extend the bike trail all the way up to this crossing. Shaky. And then we'll have the crossing go through the island right there. And then we will continue the sidewalk going all the way up to Kellyan and through the Kellyan property as part of this resolution that we're going to talk about tonight. On the south side, we will have new sidewalk all on the south side of the road between the entrance going into Cabela Drive and all the way to Burr Street. And we are installing, as part of the Burr Street project, they are installing new ramps on the corners here as part of the new street project. Any questions on that one?
So blue is bike path, and that's a different width than green?
Okay, so what I did is, just so the property owners are responsible for at least 5 foot of it, and the city would pay for the additional 3 feet. So if we were to zoom in a lot closer, you could see that 5 foot of it is green, and the other 3 foot of it is actually purple. And then this area in here is all city responsibility, so that's why it's that different. The same color that the city responsibility would be is here. City pays for the ramps with everything, just like what we do for city work. So any questions for this one? Okay, with that, we'll move to the next one. So the next area that we're looking at is South Raleigh. Basically, once again, we had requests from people living in these apartment complexes from Norway going down to basically Miedema's property, that they were having to walk in the snow to get to the sidewalk on Norway to walk to school. So we looked at this during a sidewalk committee meeting to talk about putting in sidewalk where there is curb and gutter all the way up to Miedema's driveway. We are working with the DOT right now about doing a interstate bridge project where they would widen the openings and create a sidewalk and bike trail underneath the interstate bridge. And then we would work on a enhancement project on the east side of the road where it's just a rural section roadway to put curb and gutter in there. And then our future proposed idea would be is to have a bike trail on the east side. And another reason of that is to tie the bike trail at Wesleyan together with the bike trail on Cabela Drive.
Terry, what's that street called?
This is Pine Street.
Pine Street.
Yeah. It goes to a dead end where there's apartments on both sides, but there's a dead end there up to the pond that Wesleyan has. All right, any more questions on this area? So this is that's Pine Street where that dead end that Stephanie has shown. Okay, the next area would be 7th Avenue from Edgerton, and I think this is Iowa. We're basically filling in spots where there's existing sidewalk, and we're just filling in to get from block to block. When we do this project, we'll put in all new ADA ramps where they need them, and then we're just filling in the locations on both sides of the road. So once we're done, we'll have sidewalk basically from the entire stretch going east and west all the way to Edgerton. This is an area where there's a lot of school traffic, a lot of existing homes. We'll have to do some regrading on the north side to put in some retaining walls and some grading areas on the north side, kind of over by this building. We got some grade issues, but we'll be regrading some of that work at that time. Any questions about the 7th Street project? And I think east and west, all the way from Foster going this way after this project, we'll have sidewalk that'll continue all the way to Edgerton. Okay, and the next area will be up on 8th Avenue. We have, this is an existing apartment complex. For some reason, there's existing sidewalk going up to each end and no sidewalk in the middle. There's a playground area here, so it's a very good location for sidewalk. It's actually right there. Any questions on this area? Okay. And then this area is, we had talked about it before, Beshin Electric is moving in there. And if they want to put in the sidewalk at the same time they're doing their construction project, we're okay with that. But then Northwestern would be responsible to put in the sidewalk on their property, and then we'll have sidewalk that'll connect from basically almost by the bike trail, over along the bypass, all the way to Minnesota. And of course, we're right across from the schools, so. Any questions on this area? Okay,
Can you lean into your mic a little more?
Oh,
Apparently we
yeah.
have a volume issue with what's,
okay.
people aren't hearing you.
I don't see it on there, but the next area that we talked about that's part of the hearing would be the area that we talked about up on the bypass in North Main Street. But I don't see that one got added. So basically, we're putting in sidewalk adjacent to the car wash that had a waiver at one time. And the waiver was until there was sidewalk that they would connect to. So Bank West has added the sidewalk here. So as part of the other item on this hearing, we'll continue sidewalk around here, then going in front of the C-store. It'll come across here and then join into the mall existing sidewalk.
You said it's this one separate? It was down there separately.
No, that's a different one. That's okay. The mall does from the south driveway. Stephanie could zoom in there. It's got curbside sidewalk right here, and it ends at this driveway. Yeah. So we'll continue it, but we're going to move it so it's behind and get away from the curbside, because this is the right-of-way line right here. So we got a lot of right-of-way to have a nicer sidewalk, and it's not along the street. All right, any questions about any of the work we're doing for the proposed hearing? Okay, if not, we will move on to the next item, which would be, we're going to talk about snow removal responsibility for the bike trail from Burr Street to Cabela Drive. So what I kind of wanted to get, I guess, an idea from is who is going to be responsible to clean this bike trail in this area where it's adjacent to the other property owners. Currently, in past meetings, you guys have agreed to clean the bike trail along Highway 37, Burr Street, up to this point. But our ordinance states that sidewalk is the responsibility of the adjoining property owners. So I just want to find out, I want to get some direction of who's going to be responsible to maintain this bike trail.
Do we have any bike trails? Do
What?
we have any bike trails the city is not responsible for?
We have some. We do have some. Yeah. The whole Cabela Drive loop is not cleaned by the city.
And around DWU as well.
So we have a mixture, and I want to get some direction.
And I just want to reiterate, with the changes in the ordinance, then we'll have to bring a resolution amending that map to council, so this won't be the final action.
The piece in the island would be the city's regardless,
It will be, yeah.
because that's city owned.
How many feet are you talking about, Terry?
I'm going to guess 300.
So it's a block.
Yeah,
But you gotta get to the other spot.
right.
Is this designated as bike path on the other side as well?
Yeah.
Right.
We would probably have to drive right over it if we didn't do it. Because we'll be coming down that end and then we'd have to go to that little island.
But not past the island, correct?
That's correct.
So basically, you'll turn at Burr, you're gonna, I'm assuming doing Burr Street, and then you would turn and go to do the island?
That's correct.
Yeah, whatever, don't drive over it, pack it down.
So like Stephanie said, this would have to come as another resolution, but do you want to make a recommendation?
we've always kind of talked about that if we're traveling to places that we're obligated to already clean, we certainly don't want to pack it down or be on the road when they're trying to do and so might as well leave the blades down and get to that section on the island and include that into the sidewalk
So
policy.
is that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve the city maintaining the sidewalk from Burr Street to the Cabela Island. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. We will move on to the last item. And as Stephanie's bringing up that bike trail map, we just kind of wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a history of what this is about. So we've been talking, Kyle and I have been talking, to be that bottom. Okay, so this, we can look at this one right here. This kind of shows area map showing the bike trails. The area in green is that bike over by Burr Street going up to Cabela Drive. That shows that bike trail we're going to install as part of this public hearing set for today. The Bike Trail Committee, we brought up the idea about future sidewalk going in on a future hearing, which would be next year. And we were supposed to ask the Bike Trail Committee whether or not they felt that a bike trail would be needed on Norway Street between Raleigh Street and Burr Street. So that'd be this area up here. This stretch here, which will be on our next list for next year. And the Bike Trail Committee thought it would be a good idea to tie this loop together with the bike trails going along Burr Street. And in the future, this is that other trail that we talked about we would build at a later time once the interstate bridge did some improvements that the DOT is currently working on a design for right now. And with that, Palace City Peddlers has some funding that they would like to throw at the city portion of that. And Nathan and I have already talked about applying for a grant to help for some of that extra cost. So I wanted to bring back to you guys kind of what the recommendation from the Bike Trail Committee was, that they felt it'd be a good idea to, when we're doing a sidewalk, to make it wide enough for a bike trail. So I guess I don't need a motion on it. I just wanted to kind of fill you in on what the Bike Trail Committee commented about. All right. So with that, then we'll go to the last item. Kyle and I have been having some conversations with the DOT region office. They're in their next phase of doing some, they call it pedestrian ADA phase 2 upgrades. So a couple years ago, probably 3 to 5 years ago, they were doing some upgrades on Haven Street and the bypass, and it mainly just consisted of upgrading ramps. So what the DOT is looking at doing is, for a future project, they're going to be redoing Highway 37 from the bypass going all the way up to National Guard Road. And then from there, it'll connect to that new concrete overlay that the DOT just completed last year. As part of that, we've asked the DOT that we'd like to see a bike trail on the west side of the road. So basically on the lake side, going through the lake, and then continue on all the way up to National Guard Road. This would be like a curb and gutter section, which is kind of like what we see on Burr Street. So now we would have a dedicated bike trail that would go all the way up to National Guard roadway. Then Stephanie, if you want to just pan down a little bit if you can. Okay, and if you want to, you could even zoom in this area. Yeah. Okay, so as we move forward, what we would what the idea is to build a bike trail on the north side of Highway 37 all the way to Minnesota. And then we are looking at a traffic signal to go across Minnesota. This has been a long awaited, a lot of work has got into this. Meetings with Lyndon and previous mayor in Sioux Falls with some conversations to try to get the topic started. And it's gone through a lot of talks, but I think we got it talked into now where we're going to get a street light at the intersection of the bypass in Minnesota for pedestrian crossing and also help with traffic control. So that project is slated to start next year. So it'll probably end up going in before the sidewalk bike trail work, but this will be the first phase of that project. So then after we cross, that way we'll have a crosswalk going across. And then we're looking at a bike trail going around the curve that would go around basically the private school here, I can't think of it. Mitchell Christian going through here that would tie onto this bike trail here. Currently, we have this bike trail that comes here and then it goes in front of these houses. We've had a lot of requests of people that thought it'd be nice to have a trail continued around the loop. So we have added that into the mix. We will also have a sidewalk that'll connect on the south side in between the bike trail and the other sidewalk. So now we could keep moving farther south.
So question, so the surveying and flags that they have out there are for
That's
this?
for the design of this signal.
Okay.
Correct, yeah. No, once they told us in a meeting that this was a possibility and it's getting closer and closer and it's been approved, we were like, oh, this is going to be awesome. The public's going to really like this, so. Okay, we can move farther south. Okay. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so then we were asked about where are other areas along the bypass that is a need for the pedestrian access. So we talked to the DOT about adding new sidewalk from Ash Avenue, so in front of the credit union, all the way down to Loma Linda Drive, because we have businesses along that side where there's no sidewalk, and with these motels, and you see people walking along the grass along here. So we have also added, requested that that gets added into that pedestrian Phase 2 project. The other thing that the DOT is going to do is they're going to work on a project in front of the DOT shop of adding sidewalk on Norway, basically from Edgerton all the way to the bypass. So then there'll be, after next year, there'll be sidewalk that'll continue on Norway from Burr Street, from basically end to end, Burr Street up to Burr Street. So any questions about this plan we've been working with the DOT? If I could I get a recommendation from the sidewalk committee that this is a good plan that we could share with the DOT?
I think it looks good to me.
Okay,
All makes sense.
is that a motion?
If you need one, yes.
All right,
I'll make a motion.
can I get a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, with that, can I have a motion to adjourn? Got a motion and a second, all those opposed? All those in favor say aye, opposed? Same sign. Thank you.
Can I just make a statement quick? If you're getting questions about audio not working on the television channels, I did check our YouTube. Our YouTube is working, so it's not on our equipment. There's not anything we can do about the volume.
Okay.
Make a sign and hold it up and
There's-
say,
Go to YouTube.
YouTube,
Can you sign for us, Susan?
I've just gotten several emails and texts, so I want to let
Yeah,
everyone know.
yeah, okay. That's why I asked him to speak into it, but apparently that didn't help. We'll open the meeting with Pledge of Allegiance. Invocation by Harvest Community.
Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this day and the opportunity we have to gather together as city council and as members of this community. We pray that you will bring blessing upon it. May you be in the meeting tonight and all that takes place. We give you praise, glory, and honor today. Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Sabers. Sabers.
Here.
Rice. Dosher. McCardle.
Here.
Barrington. Allen.
Here.
Charts. Charts. Smith.
Way to pay attention, Mrs. Jones. All right, I know you were busy with something else. We have a quorum. Item 6, approval of consent agenda items. Items appearing in the consent agenda may be removed by a city council member for discussion at the beginning of the formal agenda items. Does anybody wish to remove anything?
No, I do have a question for Kyle on the airport professional services. So did we end up, is that going to evaluate 100 feet wide versus 75, or is it just 75 with shoulders if I looked at that map correctly?
Yes, sir. There's actually two cost estimates there. One is for the 100-foot width. The other is for a 75-foot width with the shoulders.
And so we'll get recommendation back out of this for.
We will. This is actually just an independent fee study on the design process. So the
I'm
design-
a little ahead of myself. Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just the design process fee evaluation.
Further discussion?
Move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Does anybody in the audience wish to address these items? Roll call, please.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Barrington.
Aye.
Allen.
Aye.
Charts. Aye. Smith.
Aye.
Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 8, citizens' input. If you need to address the mayor or members of city council on an item that is not on the agenda, excluding personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action taken this time. Does anybody wish to address the council? Anybody in council have any comments?
Just a little heads up, Nathan, I think the mosquitoes are out. There are going to be a lot of them this year, I think.
We were talking about that today. We're actually, the grant cycle opened up for it too, so we'll be getting some funds.
A couple things I want to bring up. I want to thank the employees for the 2 weeks, the 1 week that turned into 2 weeks of citywide cleanup. A lot of tree branches got carried out. We appreciate that. We appreciate your diligence. They worked as a team, Park and Rec and Cemetery and Golf and Public Works all worked together, I believe, on that and got a lot of things done. They did run a little bit behind. It took them about 2 weeks to get all the branches cleared up, but I appreciate the effort everybody put forth. And then congratulations to the golf course. Lakeview Golf Course was named Vesta Mitchell in the Taylor Republic's thing, so congratulations to Lakeview and Mr. Thurman. Okay, anything else? All right, committee reports.
Public Health and Safety met at 6 o'clock. We had 2 items on the agenda. The first was fireworks permit for Heart and Soul on June 14th. That passed with the addition of waiving the fee. And the second item was fireworks permit at the lake, 4th of July, at the same discharge point out on the west end, and the appropriate traffic and other things will be put in place at that time. That also passed on voice vote, and we adjourned at 6:02.
Entertain a motion to approve committee report.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen,
Second.
second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address committee report? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Sidewalk committee?
Sidewalk Committee met tonight. We had 6 items on the agenda. First item was to review the 2019 sidewalk plan that we'll be having a public hearing for. We talked about Spruce and Cabela Drive, South Raleigh, West 7th, West 8th, and the bypass and North Main Street. We also talked about snow removal responsibility for the bike trail from Burr Street to Cabela Drive to the island, and it was decided that the city will move forward with a resolution that the city will be responsible to clean that section of the bike trail from Burr Street to the Cabela Drive Island. The next item was, we just wanted to fill in the sidewalk committee, that the bike trail committee reviewed the proposed sidewalk that's going to go on Norway from Raleigh to Burr Street, and felt that it was a good idea to put a bike trail on the north side of the street. And the last item, we've been talking to the DOT for the last couple months about a bike trail and sidewalk plan with the DOT to upgrade Phase 2 of the DOT statewide plan. And we informed the sidewalk committee that there will be a light going in next year at Minnesota and the bypass.
Okay, entertain a motion on the sidewalk committee report.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Hearings on application to Corn Palace Shrine Club for a special event liquor license located at the Masonic Temple for June 7th, 2019 for a wedding.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. On application to Corn Palace Shrine Club for a special event liquor license located at the Masonic Temple for June 14th, 2019 for a wedding.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. McCardle,
Second.
second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. On application of the Corn Palace Shrine Club for a special event liquor license located in the Masonic Temple for September 21st, 2019 for a wedding.
Motion approved.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Board of Adjustment, entertain a motion for the City Council to recess and sit as the Board of Adjustment.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address it? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 12, action to set date for Board of Adjustment, May 20th, 2019. Terrence and Michelle Line have applied for a front yard variance of 13 feet versus 25 feet is required to construct a covered porch and placement of an accessory building located at 324 East 14th, legally described as Lot 4, Block 1, Fullerton Terrace Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2.
Move to set the date.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Barrington. Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action set the date for Board of Adjustment hearing 5/20/2019. Carlos and Elena Reyes have applied for a conditional use permit to operate a family residential child care center in their home located at 412 East 12th Avenue, legally described as Lot 11, Block 1, Frost Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2.
Move to set the date.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Hearing and action on Brenda Olson and Dan Hauser, 721 West Hanson. Brenda Olson and Dan Hauser have applied for a front yard variance of 10 feet versus 25 feet as required for moving an existing accessory building located at 721 West Hanson, legally described as Lot 12, Block 8, Railroad Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned R2.
Mayor and council members, the Planning Commission held a hearing on this request and did recommend approval with two conditions. One, that there be no parking allowed on the sidewalk, and two, that the garage not be moved any further to the west and past the alignment of the house. So was their recommendation. Mr. Hauser is here if you've got questions of him or if there's anybody else wishes to comment on it.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion?
With
With
the conditions.
set
With the
forth by
conditions.
the planning
And question,
commission.
is there sidewalk on that side of the street?
If there is,
If-
when-
if
if
there-
and when
if
it
there
gets
were-
there.
if it-
Right,
okay.
right.
Thank you.
Okay, with the condition.
With the conditions set forth. Conditions.
All right. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this item? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 15, hearing and action on Gary and Sandy Butterfield, 700 West Pine Avenue. Gary and Sandy Butterfield have applied for a backyard variance of 20 feet versus 25 feet as required, and an oversized variance of 1,848 square feet versus 1,200 square feet is required for the purpose of constructing accessory building located at 700 West Pine Avenue, legally described as Lot 1, Block 6, MLC Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota. Property is zoned PD, Muller Lumber, Morning View Subdivision, Plan Development District.
Again, the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this request and did recommend approval. Just as the mayor noted, note that this is in a planned development district, so that's why the standards are a little different than the typical. For example, like we have a 2,000 square foot and his is 1,200. So these are basically the standards set forth by the planned development district. So Mr. and Mrs. Butterfield are here if you have any questions of them or anybody else wanted to comment.
The zoning code actually sets 2,000 square feet,
Right.
but Mr. Muller set a covenants on his property of 1,200.
Right.
Come up to the, people are listening and watching, and they want to see and hear you. Apparently, they can't hear, but they want to see you.
I'm Jack with Muller Lumber. My boss, Bob Muller, and his daughter Michelle worked with Gary and Sandy designing this lot for these buildings. It's an oversized residential lot. I brought plans of what the house and garage would look like if anybody would like to look at them. It's going to be a couple of wonderful-looking buildings.
I had a neighbor contact me today and wasn't concerned, but just had a couple questions. First of all, the house itself did not need any variances, so he just wanted to make for sure that that was going to be built.
The house is, yes, they'll both be built.
Okay.
Yes.
And then is the aesthetics are going to be looking about the same as far as the materials on the outside?
They'll be identical.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Smith.
Yeah, we received electronic outlines of the drawings in our packet.
Well, you got the plot plan.
Plot.
You don't have the elevations of the house, and
No,
that's all I brought.
Mr. Barrington, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 16, hearing and action on On-Site Storage LLC, 120 South Lawler Street. On-Site Storage LLC has applied for a conditional use permit to operate a self-service storage facility located at 120 South Lawler Street, legally describes lots 10 and 11, Block 20, Original Addition, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota, Property Zone CB, Central Business.
Again, the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this request. If that address doesn't ring a bell, that's the Daily Republic building. And so the Planning Commission did recommend one condition, that there be no outside storage be permitted in this. This is my understanding is it's all going to be within the inside. And you probably saw there's some photos, interior photos that were attached in your packet. So Mr. Price with On-Site is here if you've got any specific questions of him, or if somebody else wishes to comment on it.
move approval with conditions.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? there anybody in the audience wishes to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 17, reconvene as city council. Entertain a motion for the Board of Adjustment to adjourn and the city council reconvene in regular session. Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. Allen. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to award bid for paving and overlay project 2019-15. Mr. Croce?
Mr. Mayor and Council, so bids were opened on the 23rd, 2019, April 23rd, 2019, in the council chambers. And so the bids came in a little bit slightly higher than last year. The total cost is $594,652. This is for the planned milling and resurfacing of Raleigh from Havens to Andrews, Spruce from Burr to Raleigh, and Cabela Drive from Raleigh to Spruce. We have talked to commercial, and we're scheduled to start the milling and resurfacing, actually the milling this week, and hopefully, weather permitting, follow on with the asphalt overlay. So staff recommends city council award to the contract.
Does this include parking lots as well? Or no parking lots?
Sir, the total amount includes the parking lots at the budget amount this year, that $554, and then $100,000 for the parking lots.
So actually, we have the money for it.
We do have the funds, yeah.
Thank you.
We are not scheduled to do the parking lots just yet, just the mill and resurface right now.
And these are the overlays that were supposed to happen when they finished Burr Street last year.
Right, Spruce Street was actually scheduled for last year. We've added Cabela and Raleigh because of the condition of the surface.
Thank you.
Hey, Kyle, did we hear anything back from the school at all, or Nathan, about the parking lot?
I
Park
actually talked to Dr. Graves
Okay.
today and followed up with him from previously where he said he was interested. He just had some questions for Kyle on why we're reconstructing the base, but he said the school district is in on that.
And I did talk to him this afternoon, and explained what we're doing with reconstructing the base and the asphalt. And I gave him the breakdown of the prices as well, the school's responsibility and the city's.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Entertain a motion.
Move to award the bid to asphalt, to whatever their name is.
Commercial asphalt.
Move to award the bid.
You're struggling tonight.
Commercial.
I wasn't prepared, I just jumped in.
We have a motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Does anybody in the audience wish to address this one?
And and Kyle mentioned the milling is scheduled to start Wednesday, correct? So traffic-wise out at, I don't know where you're going to start, on Spruce or Cabela or
I think they're actually going to start on Raleigh.
on Raleigh?
On Wednesday.
The only
That's
one I
correct.
didn't say.
They're in need of it too.
But yeah, so there will be some traffic issues, but they'll do their best to do some detours and rerouting and keep as many lanes open as they can, especially with the milling and the resurfacing. Actually, the asphalt overlay, they're looking to start early in the morning to get those intersections completed before we get some heavy traffic.
Thank you.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 19, action on amended proposed resolution of necessity R 2019-30 for the 2019 sidewalk construction.
At this time, we'll go ahead and we'll start the public hearing for the proposed sidewalks. We'll kind of go through kind of the process we go through and kind of explain the different areas that we're working on. And then if anyone's got any questions, please come up to the podium, state your name and some of your questions. So we sent out a notice to all the people affected. They will have until May. So if this resolution gets approved, they will have till May 13th to come in and get a sidewalk permit. And then that gives you the right to find your own contractor, or if you want to do it yourself, it just needs to be built according to city specifications. If you decide that you even get a permit, but you want the city contractor to do it, all you need to do is let us know, and then the city contractor will put it in. In about a week, we will be bidding out our sidewalk projects, and each area is split up into a different schedule. So we could be potentially have different contractors working on different areas. And at that time, we'll know what our bid price is. If you're interested in knowing what the prices that I sent all the property owners are based off of estimated amount of $4.75 a square foot. And if you call in or give us a call once we have the sidewalk bids, we will be talking about it at the council meeting after the bid opening to recommend award of those bids. You will find out what those pricing are, or you could call the engineer's office, and then we would let you know what those are. We will be putting in, the contractor will be putting in the sidewalk. We will be regrading the dirt to go around it. If we need to do any removal of material to make the grade work or put in a retaining wall, the city would be responsible for those costs. If we need to fix any irrigation heads due to construction of the sidewalk project going through, the city would replace any heads that are damaged. If we remove any trees or landscape materials or equipment, the city does not pay for landscape materials, but if it's an issue with the trees, the park department has a re-tree program that will pay for a percentage of a tree up to $100, and they just need to go to the Park and Rec department and apply for the re-tree program. They will give you a coupon. You go on stake out where you want the tree at, and then I think you purchase the tree, you give them a receipt, and then they will reimburse you.
Yeah, we'll reimburse 100% up to $100
Okay.
for the boulevard trees now. Yes.
Okay. So with that, and then we will do the work this year, and then we will build all the property owners next year. They will have time, they will have 30 days to pay it without any interest. After that, it'll go 8% interest for 5 years, and it'll appear on the first half of your property taxes for the next 5 years. So we have on here sidewalk, and I'll just explain the areas. Sidewalk on South Raleigh from Norway down to the Meadamus driveway, Spruce and Cabela Drive area, West 7th, West 8th, and up on the bypass and North Main Street. And we also have a list of hazardous sidewalk that we sent out letters to all the property owners, identifying areas that of hazardous sidewalk. And so any of those people could, if they have any questions, they could come up and ask any questions. Or is there anyone in here that wants to come up and ask any questions about their sidewalk? All right. With that, and we have talked to a lot of people in the last couple of weeks since we sent out letters and kind of answered a lot of those questions that people had, so.
I've got one question I asked Stephanie, but I just want to make sure I ask it in public. The hazardous sidewalk list, and my question is that the complete list of all hazardous sidewalk in the city, or just the sidewalk you've identified as hazardous? Because as I've been out running this spring, there are lots of other places with bad sidewalks. Some of it's even marked in pink, but it's not on this list.
So this is the sidewalk that we've been looking at for the last year. And we put together a list through the winter and added it to this assessment so that we could notify the property owners. And a lot of them had already called and said, go ahead and get it fixed. Now, we have two guys that are part of the street department. They're going around and they are painting areas on the entire west side of town, from Main Street, going from the lake all the way down to Cabela's. And they are locating hazardous sidewalk in those areas. So just because you didn't get a letter.
So that's future
stuff,
potential? Okay.
yeah. And we'll probably get those areas put together this year. And if they don't finish, we'll get the area that they finished, start sending out letters probably later on this year into next year for a future hazardous sidewalk project in the future. If there's no other questions, we can move on to the resolution.
Yeah. Any other question? All right, we'll move on to the resolution. Action to approve resolution R 2019-30.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Harrington, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution R 2019-32, an application for South Dakota DENR grant for tire recycling. Mr. Croce? You're passing the buck to Mr. Roth, I take it?
I am, that's correct.
This is just looking for some approval to apply for a tire grant through the DNR. They cover the tire grant 80/20. We applied for $30,000. They're going to pay $24,000, and we'll pay $6,000 if it's all used. And it's mainly just for county residents and some surrounding communities to bring all their excess tires to the landfill. We'll have them shredded and everything, and then the DOT or the DNR will cover 80% of it. It's kind of more or less for the Zika virus to help with mosquitoes, and we did this back in 2016, and if I remember, it was right around 100 ton we did. It'll probably be less now because it wasn't very long ago. Most people clean out their tires, so.
So when you shred them, you just put them back in the dump, or what do you do? with them?
Shredded ones we can. Yep, we can use as cover material for the landfill.
Oh, good. So it does go back in the dump.
Yeah, but yep, it's all shredded, so it's compactable to a certain extent. So.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Rice,
Second.
second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on resolution R 2019-33, approving an encroachment easement in relation to the estate of Vicky L. Phillips. Are you speaking to that, Mr. Johnson?
Yeah, I'll give you just a little bit of an overview. This probably sounds a little bit familiar. Last fall, we dealt with the alley on the west side of this lot over there. That was vacated, and when that was vacated, the city ended up with a small portion of that down towards the south side, because the city does own so you can see, this is the alley, so the city would have got this small little corner down here because the city owns this 10-foot strip. And that's where we're granting the easement right now. If we go down to the last page. On this one, you can actually see where there's existing structures that cross over onto that city land. You can see there's a little bit in the alley down here, and as you followed up, there's slight encroachments on the city's 10-foot strip basically all the way through. So really all we're doing with the easement is saying, hey, you can keep your stuff here. So unless there's any questions, I'll be quiet for a little bit.
Move to approve.
Motion by Mr. Allen. Second by Mrs. Charks. Further discussion? If anybody in the audience wishes to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Action on resolution R 2019-34, a plat of lots 1 and 2 of GRS on the south half of the north half of the southeast quarter of Section 3, Township 102 North, Range 60 west of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davis County, South Dakota.
The Planning Commission did review this plat at their last regular meeting and did recommend approval. If you're wondering again why we're hearing this, it's outside our city zoning jurisdiction, but it's what state law requires. Anything within 3 miles we have to review. Basically, if you saw the big aerial, you'll see that from what I understand is to kind of clean up a really ugly-looking legal description. It was so many footage by so many footage and so forth, and that part of that you can see is in a floodplain. So this is just to kind of identify those properties. So Again, the planning commission did recommend approval, and I believe the county's hearing this tomorrow.
Oh, that's right.
Move to approve?
Does that have to be pending county approval?
I don't believe it did.
Okay. Motion by Mrs. Chark, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-35, plat lot 4, block 5 of the Woods First Edition, a subdivision of the east half of the southwest quarter of Section 23, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, City of Mitchell, Davis County, South Dakota.
Again, the planning commission reviewed this plat and did recommend approval. You can kind of see it just follows pretty much the master plan of the area, so.
Motion approved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Barrington, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action on Resolution R 2019-36, Avera Cleanup Pieces submitted a petition to vacate a portion of North Langdon Street running north and south between the west side of Lot 8, Block 3, and Lot 1, Block 1, all in Green Ridge Addition, subject to existing utilities.
Okay, I'll kind of get this started, and I see there's representatives of Avera here, so that they can fill in the blanks, so to speak. Basically, what this request is to vacate a portion of Langdon Street, and I see there's some exhibits in your packet that show where that is. And it's basically, the only properties are owned by Avera on both the east and west side. And so it just kind of goes up to the part where you're right there, where that arrow was, that's Mr. Radke's property, and he is not part of this petition, nor is those other parcels that Vera owns. So it just ends at that portion right there. And my understanding is that Vera wishes to construct a parking lot, and I believe there's a copy of that plan in your packet as well, over that right of way. And I know that Justin has put some language in there to basically his covenant, so to speak, and I'll let him speak to that portion of it. Again, this was noticed in the Daily Republic for 2 consecutive weeks and so forth. So I'll let Justin go from there, and then I'll answer any other questions you may have.
Well, as usual, we try to keep the legal language simple. We don't often succeed, but, the basic idea behind it is that the city would maintain an easement for the utilities that are there, along with any other utilities that are in that area that aren't city-owned. And if we do need to access them for any reason, then Avera is still responsible for repairing their own parking lot. If we have to dig up any dirt or anything like that, we would treat that like we would normally, but we would not be responsible for repairing the parking lot if we had to access the utilities. And there's also language in there that they can't build structures or anything like that over where the utilities would be. It's just basically parking lot and landscaping.
Additionally, from Public Works side, the other roadways around the area have already been developed. 23rd and Davison are developed. Avera owns both sides of the roadway now, so we're not opposed to any vacation there.
Part of it's
We're in favor.
currently under parking lot, isn't it?
I believe the
the
parking
road?
lot is on the west side.
Okay.
And
I
the
live
pla-
in that area, and I don't believe I'll ever see it a street, and let's just close it and vacate it and move on.
I did neglect it if you could probably notice.
My
it.
motion.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. McCardle.
Okay,
Okay,
I
go
just
ahead.
wanted to make sure that noted because as the planning commission did review this, and I think that if I'm trying to interpret I think they just didn't feel that the street should be vacated at all. I mean, and I just want to make sure that you were aware that was their point of view.
They
Yes.
feel that
Yeah.
no street should be vacated.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that was
Right.
so noted.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Made an easy night for you, didn't it, Mr. Peterson? Item 26, action to approve resolution R 2019-38, a resolution amending resolution number R 2018-60, passed November 5th, 2018.
For council's information, the packet, or the resolution that was included in the packet is amending a resolution the council passed on November 5th, 2018, to have the final dollar amounts for the funding of Sanborn Phase 2 and 3. Both this resolution and the following resolution were required by our bond council as part of the financing package.
Simply brings
Everything up.
everything
to the
into
same page.
alignment. You know, what we're borrowing is.
The final,
what we need.
final dollars are
Correct.
now part of the resolution. I'll move approval.
Motion by Mr. Rice. Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Action to approve resolution 2019-39, a resolution amending resolution number R 2018-61, passed November 5th, 2018.
And this is for the other half of the funding package for Phase 2 and 3 of Sanborn, making the financing resolution match the application that was sent to Pier and the bid amount that was awarded by the council.
Motion by Mr. Allen, second by Mr. Barrington. Further discussion? Do you have something?
Nope.
Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Second reading of ordinance O 2019-06, an ordinance that changes the zoning district classification of the real property legally described as Lot C of the east half of the northeast quarter, Section 30, Township 103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th Prime Meridian, Davidson County, South Dakota, from TWC Transportation Warehouse Commercial District to UD Urban Development District.
Again, just as a reminder, the Planning Commission did hold a hearing on this, I believe, 2 meetings ago. And the party wishes to construct a house, and since this property is zoned commercial, that you're going to have difficulty getting financing. So that's the purpose of it, so.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Chark, second
Second.
by Mr. McCardle. Gotta be quicker than that.
Yeah, I was talking.
Discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Move to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Wright. There you are, pretty quick on that one.
That's what I was talking about.
Second by Mr. Smith. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address the adoption? Roll call.
Barrington. Allen. Charks.
Aye.
Smith. Sabers.
Aye.
Rice.
Aye.
Dosher. McCardle.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item 30, action to approve Agreement 8, 2019-22, proposal for consulting services for design and permitting services for Dry Run Creek with Infrastructure Design Group, Project 2019-33. Mr. Croce.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is an agreement or a proposal to enter into an agreement with Infrastructure Design. This is an area, Dry Run Creek, that needs a little bit of attention regarding the creek bed and some overgrowth in the area. What we want to do is get into an agreement with infrastructure to do some wetland delineation to understand where the wetland is, where the creek bottom was and should be, some attention that needs to be addressed for any potential flooding. They'll, with this agreement, they'll agree to do some public outreach and reach out to the residents, do project management, and start a preliminary design and permitting for a phase design, which we think will end up taking a bit of time, maybe over a few years. The city at this point is going to start the surveying process and doing some surveying collection this summer. We're starting this week, and we'll work with infrastructure on a plan for the delineation. The estimated cost is $80,000 for this professional services, and staff recommends city council approval.
Kyle, are you making the creek wider, or what are you doing down there?
So the creek does narrow at certain areas, even where some of the culverts and the channels are wide, but it narrows down to where it looks like it's silted in, and a lot of vegetation has grown up over the years. So in some cases, we would look to widening the channel. In other areas, we'd look to, maybe constructing some berms and cleaning out some of the crossings.
This is kind of in relation, we had some people that were concerned with what was going to happen regarding East Central drainage, bringing water down to that area, as well as the Sanborn project, increasing possible flow in that area. So this kind of addresses their concerns, does it not?
It does, and SBN has shown the model to not provide a big increase during the construction of Sanborn, during the stormwater construction phase. But it is an area, Dry Run Creek is an area that needs some attention. Like I said, we think there's a lot of growth and silting of the creek bottom bed, and this will help out in any potential flooding cases as well.
How far do you go on the Dry Run survey?
It looks like we're going to go from the bypass to Foster, so the whole area there.
Pretty much full length.
Okay. I've got a couple questions. First is, just and get my directions right, south of the depot on the city side of the fence was termed a hazardous waste site, and there were trees, specific trees that were planted there. Will any of this survey look at any of that area and the remediation level that's taken place at that?
Yeah, we'll look at the whole area and do some historical research and documentation on that too.
Okay. And then the second part that I'm real curious about is from Burr to Foster, to see, and back to the bike path plan, to try and designate to see if we can own the land, or there's places we could go through from Burr to Foster to take the bike path so we can hook up with Hitchcock Park.
Yeah, so we'll look into that as well. Northwestern is doing a project as well on that side, in the backs, I guess in the back for access to the property. So we'll look at some potential areas for possible bike trails. That'd be ideal if we could, and coordinate any other sanitary design that we need through Dry Run Creek, because we do have a sanitary sewer line through there. So we need to make sure we're coordinating both the bike trails through that area and the sanitary sewer.
Thank you.
So just out of curiosity, and maybe this is a stupid question, but maybe I'm not the only one that has it. So do you actually end up dredging? I'm just wondering if this is like a
I think we would do
foreshadowing.
some, I think we would do some mechanical earth sculpting, let's call it. We're not going to bring a barge and dredge anything. And again, we have to go through the wetland delineation process first, get with the Corps and see what's allowed and what's not. Obviously, we want to make sure that we're alleviating the flooding. So if we can widen the channel and do some slope stabilization, that's the goal.
So the silt that is built up, I mean, will you haul that out, or is that what you're thinking, that it would be removed?
We would
permanently?
remove that and haul it out, yes.
Another question that I had outlined, I forgot about, the permitting for the railroad, the 4 crossings, I believe. Is that part of the 80,000, or we have budget money that would take place outside of the 80,000 that would be specific for permits?
We'll probably have to look at both the permitting for railroad, for Army Corps, and for DNR when we get to that phase, probably next year. We'll find out if we can, this is Phil, with infrastructure design, but we'll identify the permits that are required.
But they'll do all the work with the railroad?
Sure. So in this agreement right now, to allow both our survey crews and the city survey crews on railroad property, we'll get the permits for surveying on the property. But then as we proceed with design, what we're doing as we cross the railroad, those will be a completely separate permit that we'll have to continue working with the railroad.
Would you identify yourself just so people know?
Phil Gunvaltson with Infrastructure Design.
Thank you. Further questions? Yeah. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve 2019-23 23.
22.
Oop, I'm
23
on the wrong one, 22.
Motion by Mr. Rice, second by Mr. Allen. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this? All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 31, action to approve agreement A 2019-23, proposal for consulting services for project 2019-3, North American Wetlands Conservation Act, NAUCA, grant, USA Fish and Wildlife Service, Steve Donovan. In essence, what this is we're having discussions with Mr. Donovan about helping us write grants. He left his employment with Ducks Unlimited, is preparing to take another job, but is willing to help us write the grants for the Kelly property and the NAUCA money that we're trying to get through that. And he has proposed a fee of $9,400 to assist us with those grants and get them written before the end of May.
One question. We've got 100 set off to the side for administrative costs it had in there. And of course, about around 10,000 would be for this particular. So is the other amount, is that going to be used for additional grants that we could potentially write? Or what would be the other costs, administrative costs associated with that 100?
Well, the 100,000, that would still be there. And we don't, at this time, we don't foresee more money going into writing grants. However, Mr. Donovan has a long history of writing these NAUCA grants successfully, which is important to us. And we're going to try and go for $1 million to match the $1 million or $1.6 million that we already have that we're putting into this. Right. So it was an opportunity to get somebody who is very familiar with this process to help us out and hopefully increase our success rate.
Yeah, I agree that we need to move forward. I was just trying to get an idea of what the other administrative might be.
Some samples of other grants would be accounting requirements, reporting requirements back to the grant. They might require quarterly, annual reports, those kind of things. So the cost associated with that typically comes out of those.
Right, and the administrative stuff you can take out of, or you can write into the grant. It's this kind of thing, getting him to consult with us is not something that they will allow you to write into the grant. Or NAUCA will not let, or obviously will not allow it. There are certain grants that you might be able to do that. So, this is just one grant of many we're looking at getting over the course of.
Okay, so maybe a different way to ask the question, and I don't know, so out of $1 million grant that we could potentially get, is 100,000 abnormal for administrative? I mean, rule of thumb 10%, or how does $100,000 administrative come out?
Usually that administrative amount is set by the grant parameters to begin with. It'll allow up to a percentage point.
So if we don't spend it, you just don't spend it.
Right.
And I don't know if part of your question was the funding. The funding of this fee, the $9,400, comes out of the money that the council set aside for Lake Mitchell development. And we did give a summary of that on here, that you have $212,000 in the 2019 budget. We have $63,000 that's the cost of issuance of bonds, and then we have a down payment that has to come out of there. So even with this $9,400 agreement, there's still $109,000 left out of that 2019 allocation, because our first debt service won't be required till early 2020.
Correct. And this, I believe the 212 is Poet's payment to us, isn't it?
When would we know on this, if we receive this grant?
Well, the grant's due July. I thought it was June or July, and he wants to have it written before May. He intends to start working for, I think, the National Wild Turkey Federation, June 1st. So his goal is to get all our stuff in and written before June, so we'll be ready to submit it. And then I don't know. I'm new to the grant process, so I don't know how long it takes before we hear, but we will be into the June or July grant, whatever time frame. Very knowledgeable. He knows a lot of people to help partner with us too, so, and how to approach.
That's what's going to be the key.
Yes.
I think we need somebody with this expertise, so I make a motion to approve Amendment A 2019-23.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Sabers.
Second.
Second by Mr. McCardle. Further discussion? Anybody in the audience wish to address this one? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 32, action to approve agreement A 2019-24 consulting services for East Central Drainage Basin Phase 2 with SPN and Associates. This basically carries on from Phase 1 where we are installing the outlet pipe, and this ties it all together to make it work, correct, Mr. McCormick?
That is correct. This would bring it up to through the TIP district.
So without this, Phase 1 is not.
Doesn't empty anything.
Doesn't work.
Not near as well as it should.
Yeah, right.
I'll move approval of A 219-24.
Motion by Mr. Rice.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Jerks.
While we have you up here,
Yes.
what's the status of our Sanborn project at Edmonds? I see all the pipe and all the dirt over there. How are they doing?
They've been working on the boring underneath the railroad tracks. It has not gone as well as they hoped. They've hit a lot of cobblestone rock on the bottom part of the bore with softer material on top, so the bore keeps wanting to try to get out of the rock, so it's just taking them a lot longer than they expected.
Haven't run into any old cars or boilers or deals?
We ran into an old water pipe that slowed us down for a day. They just happened to stop for the guy to go check the boring head and see how things were going and see how the material is. And we walked into the pipe to see where it was at. There just happened to be a water pipe right there, but it was an old cast iron water main that was abandoned. But we had to
cut that out?
Yeah, make sure that everything was okay. But other than that, that part has gone a lot slower than they expected, but it is moving forward.
And they do have permission to dig now, right, on the south side?
Yes, they obtained permission from the railroad to start digging on the south side of it so that they can move through that cobblestone rock faster. So,
Do we have somewhat of an estimate when we're going to start closing the road?
we still have
Weather
all
permitting.
the sanitary sewer and water, well, yeah. Sanitary sewer and water on that on Edmonds as well as on First. So we're probably, at least 4 weeks away from that yet before we get over onto Sanborn.
And Jeff, we did discuss in our morning meeting that last year, the Public Works Department issued a notice to the public out on the website when we were getting close to that date, and we will do that again because that's been a frequent question that we've got asked.
Now we just need the creek not to rise, proverbial.
Right.
If the creek
And
don't
drier
rise.
weather.
Right.
Yes.
Because I think we're forecast for like an inch of rain today.
Started already.
Further question? Further discussion?
Thank you.
Anybody in the audience wish to address this? Thank you, Mr. McCormick.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Item 33, executive session. Motion to enter into executive session according to South Dakota Codified Law 12524, preparing for contract negotiations or negotiating with employees or employee representatives.
Motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McCardle, second by Mr. Rice. Further discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Their head.
Carried.
I heard that.
What's Bob waiting for? Jeez.